Alright, what is up, everybody? We're back with another episode. We have Chuck Varga, aka the Sexecutioner, in the house. A very important member of the founding member of GWAR. Like, I would say he is just as important as Hunter Jackson, as Dave Brockie, when it comes to the art aspect of everything. It was a total pleasure and honor to have him on the show to talk about the early days of GWAR, what got him into art, his thoughts on the infamous GWAR documentary, and all this fun stuff. So yeah, I'm very stoked for you guys to see this interview. I did this interview, I'd say back in December, and like I said in my previous interview I did with Miles Baker from Interloper, I don't know if you guys saw that, but I was sitting on these interviews for a bit. I was moving, as you can see. This is a disaster behind me, but yeah. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Chuck Varga, the Sexecutioner, GWAR. Here it is. Alrighty, so we have the mighty Chuck Varga. Everyone knows him as the almighty Sexecutioner, GWAR.
I am the Sexecutioner. So you think that you're wrong? Very smart. That you know many words. All you need to know for the rest of your life.
And many other Denvers too. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a weird holiday for me. I just got knee surgery. I'm going through a lot of these health issues, so bear with me. My meds kind of leave me loopy at times.
Yeah.
Right now, as I'm I'm getting through a rough spot. But otherwise, everything's great.
Yeah, man, it's good. What does you're just getting stronger. That's how I see it, right?
Well, I I am getting stronger, and it is taking longer. Yeah, I'm at a milestone, I guess, in my life where I need to get some factory upgrades.
Yeah. So let's get down to the basic main question. What got you into art and your interest in it and all that? Let's take it back.
Well, I've thought about that a lot, and I don't know if it means anything to anybody, but I got into art at an early age is part of my own sort of art therapy. I was in this like very repressive Catholic school, and I was just dying to do something. Part of me was just dying to just be a misfit, basically. And there were a lot of really uptight people there to be villains and stuff. So what I saw in the 60s when I was growing up were these bubblegum cards, for me at just the age of 6 or 7 or 8. And they were made by Tops, and they were just like underground comics. They were just really they were delightfully unwholesome. They would never be sold today. They were just sick. And so I started drawing them on my own, and I get a lot of disapproval out of that. And so that was a great connection right there. I used it got me in. I got into a lot of the pop culture that surrounded that, with the comic books and the whole weirdo Ed Roth crazy car movement, custom culture. That was a big fad back then, but it just that led me into comics, and I started to draw my own comics, and they got me in trouble in class because they're always dirty and they always involve people who
Of
fight
course.
each other. Anyhow, so that's I mean, being a misfit, it was my form of graffiti to get it out there that I wasn't going to play their game. I guess
Yeah.
everybody has that. That was my art therapy. And it showed itself again in GWAR because a lot of everybody else in the band, when we would come up with these ideas, it was, basically a reaction, our own therapy to get out our personal gripes with society and the world.
It's just basically like art was like like your form of rebellion. You know what I mean? I really I like the way you put that. It's like
Well,
your way of being a misfit.
it was, and as I look back, that is a very common thread because for a long time I went to art school and I wanted to really be a conceptual artist. I wanted to break out huge somehow. I had a big ego, and but I didn't really know exactly where I was going to go. And the more art education I got, I was going through the more academic classes with art history and theory and stuff, and you can really get lost in some uh, over intellectualized woods, so to speak, on there with the art theories. And the more that I got lost in those woods, the more I kind of grew contempt for what they were teaching me with the contemporary art. And it seemed like over the years, it had gotten dumbed down and commodified and it lost its soul or something. And also all the classes that I was taking in art theory and such, all those people in art history, they look down on popular culture. So if you were to say, hey, well, that painting over there is that's an impressive statement. What do you think about these comic books here? Look at I know that the masses are into them, and they're part of our culture. Everybody grew up with Spider-Man and all those Marvel characters, and then a lot of us went on to the underground comics and discovered Robert Crumb or somebody like that. And then just there in the 80s, there's an incredible explosion of weird graphics going on just before Photoshop caught on. And that was tied into a lot of the music zines that were going on in art school at that time. And I got drawn into working for pro bono for a couple of those. And then I met Hunter Jackson, and he embodied all of those things that I had mentioned that the Art History Society hated, and I really grokked with him. I was like going, yeah, this is fucking cool. Yeah, I like politically incorrect. Thank you. Fuck you very much, and I like R ratings all the time. I like everything that they tell me not to like. And so once I had seen through the looking glass, I realized, oh, I get it now. Our art is going to be all about everything that they tell us not to do. And the thing that they hate the most, let's go right straight for it.
Yep.
And it's been like a conceptual divining rod for the band ever since, I think. When we were putting together our art statement in the early years, and when we decided that, okay, well, we are going to be X-rated. We're going to be not just triple X-rated. We're going to be fucking we're going to be in another dimension X-rated, so wrong. And that you don't have time to figure out what's right. And at the same time that we're giving the whole music industry, especially the performance aspect, a huge kick in the pants. Like, hey, look, Chuckle Butts from Richmond, Virginia. Boom. We did fuck you up so hard. I mean, and I don't mean that to the audience of the Bohabs as much as I mean to the music industry at that time. At least we thought that we were having that our response, our show was what people got out of it, what they appreciated, that here was somebody that saw things the way that they saw them, and that things should be over the top and unpretentious in that way, because before it's just, I can't get over how narcissistic rock stars are.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, look at me now. But it was the corporate music world. I've been I don't know what it looks like now. I'm detached from it. For me, I go back, like fucking 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
That was my timeline in GWAR. And it was dominated by MTV and Rolling Stone and a couple other magazines, and they were just completely commercial pap, and so many of the masses were just sucking right into that homogenizer.
Yep.
And then there was parallel universe that we were all in, and we liked that.
I wanted to know was Hunter was the first one you met from that whole GWAR community, right? Hunter was the first guy you met that got you into there, or?
Yeah, I think I knew Brocky at the time, but
Okay.
I'd say definitely Hunter. And we met, playing this like Dungeons and Dragons kind of game. And just instantly hit it off,
Yeah.
And so we just started this fusion together, which was basically me sort of helping him out, collaborating with his projects, which were comic books, cheesy, cheap movies, that liked punk rock and lots of sexuality and very heavy. I mean, it was going into so many cool areas that I was like going, I think I think I found what I want to do, and so next thing that's my new calling in life, is working with Hunter on whatever we're working on. And it was, we worked on several projects. We worked on Captain Communist, and then for a few years we worked on Scum Dogs.
Yeah, that was my next question. Was you were in that Scumdogs of the Universe movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've always wanted to like catch that and find that somewhere, but it's like next to impossible.
There's a whole lot of stuff that, oh my God, it got lost. It's a tragedy.
Do you and Hunter still communicate? Do you guys still talk here and there, or is that kind of?
Occasionally, I mean, not, we don't call each up every Sunday. Um, and it's weird as you get like older, like, we're like, pretty fucking old, just keeping up with people. We got social media. Who calls anybody anyhow?
Yeah, right.
I mean, when the phone rings, you're like going, I'm not answering that. I'm gonna check out the message and screen it real good and stuff. Anyhow, no, we talk occasionally, and it's good. We had a really good, I guess you would say, uh, we reunited really well over the last several years on the whole Scumdog 30th anniversary
Right.
profit cycle. And that was, it was good, you know, uh just to catch up with him and do all the same things that we used to do, and I'd love to be smoking weed with him right now and playing stupid games or whatever we used to do. I'd love to, I like I'm starting to draw again, and he would probably get me drawing a lot more.
Yeah.
And
Actually, Hunter was one of the last guys I interviewed. It's
uh-huh.
well, by the time this is up on YouTube, the Hunter interview will already be up. But yeah, I talked to him about a week or so ago, and he had a lot. He had a lot he wanted to say too about his story and you and him and all that. And I thought that was really fascinating. And I was like, I got to get Chuck on here and get everything on his brain and pick it. So yeah, I've been a long time fan for a very long. Well, I'm 27, so I started listening to GWAR about 12 years old. I really caught on to like the imagery too. That's what really got me, and that's why I was like, the music's awesome, but the art is just out of this world. It's its own instrument in a way, and that's what I love the most. And then I realized it was, I'm just gonna say, mainly you and Hunter who would really, and Don, I guess I could say Don too, really came up with a lot of that stuff, and Brocky, and that's what I admired really about GWAR. And uh, speaking of you and Hunter communicate, do you communicate with anybody else from the group at all?
um well, this is getting personal. uh Now, amazingly, I've been keeping up more with like Danielle,
Oh yeah.
and more with Hunter, and the band is like they're their own thing. They're off in the fortress somewhere, and like, there's some that I'm good friends with all of them, but some of them I have a, oh, more of a communication thing with.
Yes.
And that was Bob. He was my whisperer. And but I haven't, we've had bad communication lately.
Yeah.
And things kind of like have, I don't know, this whole year's been like a big, I don't know what to call it, a a big slip for me, in that when I found out how fucked up my knee was, and I got some other information, I realized that I'm not going to be able to perform for a long time.
Yeah.
That kind of like put me into a whole other gear. I've been, and so uh really be catching up with the band, and whatever they're working on now is kind of like back burner. And anytime they want to give me a call, go ahead, but they're pretty busy.
Yeah. Like I just caught like a newer show of theirs back in early in November.
Uh-huh.
And I love that they keep the attitude in the shows. And you know, it's definitely, you know, not like seeing a 90s GWAR show by any means, but I still like that they keep that attitude going, the GWAR attitude, but it's definitely a newer version. There's no denying that by any means. But anyways, man, what would be like your favorite? What was your favorite GWAR tune other than the Sexecutioner song? Like, do you remember one song that you're like, damn, that's a fucking great song, and you always loved it when they played it and everything?
Well, uh, my favorite records are like the first five,
Hmm.
and there's stuff like I really like what am I thinking of? It's I've got a chemo brain going on right now. Uh, America Must Be Destroyed.
Oh,
Like,
great
I
one.
really loved where that song, and I love that record, but where that
Yeah.
song was, the direction that that song was going, which is
Hmm.
where for me, if I wore any sort of a producer's hat or was able to get any kind of like anything in on where they would go with their music, it's more what people would call electronic.
No more than 10 to 20 million kills. He called a spade a spade. People ought to be ashamed of themselves. I got a brand new record now.
They've got traditional rock and heavy metal covered, but there's, we were doing that back in the day. We had somebody on keyboards and they were doing sound effects, creating a
Yeah.
whole, soundscape. You
Hmm.
know, it was a sense around thing that I don't think a lot of people ever got at a rock show. It's been they've gotten away from that, and I just think they could really do shit uh with what they've got if in an electronic I'm not a musician, so I don't know how to express myself very well about this, but in that domain, I think with sound effects and stuff like that, they could go as crazy as GWAR deserves to go.
Yeah. Because I was gonna say you said sound effects and everything, and I noticed in that song there's so much like cool sampling, and that song's really heavy too. That was actually the very first GWAR record I bought. It came with it was America Must Be Destroyed and Phallus in Wonderland, and I think it also had that Tour de Scum uh, on the
Uh-huh.
same DVD, and that was my introduction to GWAR. So that was a lot to take in. Yeah, I loved it, and I still do, and it's all from there. But you mentioned musician and all that. Did you ever try back in the day to pick up a guitar or bass or drums or anything like that, or did that just was it just art all the way for you?
Well, apparently, at a young age, I was, quite the piano prodigy,
Oh wow, okay.
but it was it was too refined for me, and I chose up more barbarian things to do, like play stupid sports or something like that. Uh, but anyhow, and I never, I never, I'd try to, I'd rent a guitar or something like that and dick around, but I never really had any lessons, and I wasn't that much of an achiever at that point. And then I just never picked it up. I never went into the musician space and then just dicked around, asked them to show me something. never did that. So the answer, no, not really.
Nah, just kind of just played around. Um, what were your favorite movies growing up that inspired you to do art and all that? Because I know Hunter was telling me he really loved like the old Japanese movies and stuff like that.
Well, that's there were a lot of classic like action and science fiction things that had influenced us. And like for Hunter, when I look at the toys that he played with, he was the Planet of the Apes king. When he was a kid, that was, most of my kids on my street, they were like, one faction of the army or another. He he was the ape, probably ape man or something. Uh, but where am I going with this?
Movies that really
Oh,
inspired you to do the art.
well, like John Waters,
Oh
and
yeah.
there in West Myers, there was well, I loved that because it was outlaw. It was unwholesome, and when it's coming out of that era of the '70s, where when you asked for an R-rated movie, you got some fucking R-rated shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they devoted a segment to because they knew that their audience had to have some action going on so that they could have their action going on. Anyhow, they don't do that anymore. So picking up pieces like from John Waters, what he could do with a small budget and big ideas. And we knew we had the big ideas. We knew we had the small budget. And we had a lot of time and angst on our hands. And it was the perfect time to get involved in a project like that. I was so lucky that I was there when, this energy was going around with all these other creative individuals. And it was very it was a lot of fun. We were we were the other early GWAR members and us, we weren't the cool kids in town, and we got picked on quite a bit. We just stuck out, and then we eventually, around this GWAR idea, we actually had a tribe, and we were kind of a thing. And we had our own, we were like Fight Club, and it was really cool, and everybody had this positive feeling about hey, working on our project, our ideas again. We're this is we're a lot of people would look at us like, what project are you talking about anyhow? That shit over there, that shit is gonna fuck you up so hard. And so people would come by the studio all the time, and Hunter's had his side of his studio was just a chain link fence, like he was a convict or something. And if you could look in there and scrutinize, which they did all the time. I tell you, man, I wish we had this dollar suggestion box or something, because people were always, and we just tell them, don't talk about it, do it. And so we fucking did it. That's the beautiful thing about that. And so it was we were the bad news bears, so to speak. I don't think you know what that movie was or anything, but the unlikelies, the and we got in a lot of trouble. We were all misfits, and got in trouble, skirted the wonder that we didn't go to jail or get killed or something, for sticking out in that conservative town back in those days.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I just popped in my head, like, it's so funny. You guys, your GWAR back in the 90s should have been called Misfits. I think that name would have been like perfect. But so like I I actually have the documentary that got released a couple months ago. What were your thoughts on the documentary? Do you like? I know a lot of people had very mixed things about it, but like obviously you can't tell almost 40 years of history in 2 hours like that. But it did explain a lot of things, and I love that it had a lot of the 90s stuff packed in there. Like there's a big like jam packed of that. I appreciated that. But what were your thoughts on that?
Well, it you know, you framed it right. It's impossible to get 30 years of material
Yeah.
condensed into 2 hours. And there for what they, I gotta admit that they hit a lot of the marks that they should have. And they did like spend a lot of time interviewing us and getting as in-depth thing as they could. So, I think it works in a lot of ways. I had misgivings. I was kind of like upset personally. I thought, I was like, wow, I guess I was a 5-second wonder. I didn't feel that I got much for the days that we interviewed and the way that it went over, for it to like be really is like you know just a few sound bites like that. I was, it shocked me.
I can't say I blame you, especially hearing that you had all that interview time and you got maybe 5-6 minutes of it, if
I
not
feel
more.
bad for Scott and Rocky, uh because they, like, they were toughing it, coming to each town. She ain't coming to New York. I don't know where they were staying. And just putting in the time, sitting down, and like we just talked for hours. I think that was part of what they did to make an entertaining documentary. Was they want, positive, upbeat, soundbitey things.
Right.
And that's what you saw a lot of in there. Um, and that's what you're not going to get from me unless I know, oh, I need, we're on TV. I could be so nice and plucky and interesting and, like, come up with some clever things, but left to my own devices, I guess I'm not that interesting.
When I bought the DVD off the website and it said there was a bunch of bonus features, I thought, oh, great, they're gonna have, because I had watched the movie prior to buying it. I streamed it on I think it was Shutter, and I saw it, so I was like, oh, great, bonus features. They're gonna have like all these deleted interviews and everything like that, and it was not really. It didn't really show that, and I did want to see more interviews with the older members, like yourself and Hunter as well, and Dawn and everybody. But it is what it is, and it yeah, you can't do anything about it. And
It seems to be doing pretty well.
it is doing well.
GWAR needed that kind of wind in its sails anyhow.
Yeah, because they
It's
never
taking them
really.
into, it's like I could see it's making them a lot more accessible to a lot of that fringe market that was not going to. I don't know about going to any GWAR shows, and now it's almost like a rite of passage for growing up.
Yeah.
Well, you never went to a GWAR show? You have to fuck. What are you even doing here?
And So I have one more question for you, Chuck. What
All right.
was your favorite all-time tour story that you're able to share with me from back in the day?
You know, I always know that one's coming, and I always have a hard time. Well, I better have one on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, gosh, and like when I see other guys like Hunter and Don talk about pluck that one, and they've really got their memory must be a lot better than mine. Uh, they all kind of like blur together. You know, the as getting sentimental about any old GWAR shows, a lot of times the funniest ones were those super early ones, like 87 or something. Because now it's like, okay, well, this whole tour, that show is that going to be that show. But when we performed locally in Richmond, it was a new show every time. We all new props, all new story, a lot of new music. So as a performer, when you're doing something fresh, you get such an adrenaline rush from just being kind of scared and kind of, you're so in the moment. And when you feel like you're really hitting your mark and you're getting it there, and then you like actually you with another performer, you guys have something going on, almost like telepathy.
Yeah.
And when it's more than two people, when you're all on the same page, and it's a beautiful thing that the GWAR stage, if you ever were up on there and you weren't used to it, you would be like freaked out, like too much acid. I mean, it's like, because it's so loud and the lights are so intense. And I mean, in the music, I mean, so that the air is vibrating it's like it's like you're on a train.
Oh yeah.
And so it takes a while to get your GWAR stage legs to where that doesn't freak you out, to where like, oh, another day at the office, I got this, big clumsy suit on, and it stinks, and but I'm running uh, it's I don't know where I was going with that. Maybe it sounded good.
No, it sounded great. I loved it. Just putting on the Sexecutioner outfit, like, oh yeah, another day.
But,
I loved it.
it got to be that. I mean, it's only now that I really can appreciate that I had the coolest job in the universe.
Yep.
Because a lot of times it was you were when especially these guys are seasoned pros now. They've been doing it for these decades, but for the first 5 or 10 years, it was all new to us. And for you to next thing you know, you're in a band on the road and you're doing the same thing every day. You're going to all these wild places, all these wild people. It's like a party every night. It's just the most beautiful experience. It's one day right after another, doing that same thing, and you eventually like it. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of tired of, just, I don't feel like putting on this bloody outfit today and going out in front of those people out in Des Moines and, singing my song and doing it. I just don't have it in me. I just don't, and so you have to find that somewhere.
Yeah.
And usually there's a fan in the audience who's wanting to make you, give you a line or something to get you through the night.
Excellent point, ball.
I don't speak for all the other band members, you know, and I wish I was fortunate enough to have had that service more often. But so
No,
it was interesting those early years, because we hadn't mapped out the country. There it was all like uncharted, you know. None of us had really went to most of the states, and you know, places like California and Texas really freaked us out. Okay, well,
Chuck, it was a pleasure having you on.
oh, okay, yeah. I'm sorry I don't have a good story on the tip of my tongue.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
And I guess you're running out of time, but thank you for having me.
Yeah, always, Chuck. All right, you take care.
All right.
And, I hope to talk to you again soon.
All right.
All right, take care.
Excuse me. La 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 la. Oh, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh. So you think that you go wrong? Very wrong. That you know many words. All you need to know for the rest of your life. Sexecutioner! I'm sexecuting you! Sexecutioner! La 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 la. Brilliant! La 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 la. Oh, la 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 la. Excuse me! La 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 la. Oh, oh, ah, oh, oh.